Okay, let's dive in. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're really getting into the weeds of network access control, looking specifically at HPE ClearPass.
That's right, and we're doing it through some interesting source material.
Yeah, exactly. It's a set of practice questions and the explanations that go with them, all for the HPE 6-A88 exam.
So it's like looking over the shoulder of someone studying for the cert.
Pretty much. It gives us a good window into, the core ideas, what ClearPass actually is, and maybe more importantly, how it works to manage who and what gets onto a network.
Uh-huh.
So our mission today is basically to unpack these questions and answers, pull out the essential bits of knowledge about ClearPass features.
Make sense of it all.
Right. Just quickly, the source mentions the exam details proctored, hour and a half, 50 questions, 70% to pass, and it's in English.
Standard stuff for these kinds of certs.
Yeah, gives context. But the real meat is in the ClearPass. Features these questions force you to think about.
Okay, let's get started then. What's first?
All right, first question we pulled out asks, which ClearPass feature ensures endpoints comply with security policies before they get network access? Options were OnGuard, Insight, Guest Manager, Access Tracker.
And the answer there is on guard.
Correct, OnGuard. And the source explains it.
Hmm.
Well, it checks the device's security posture. Things like, is the antivirus running? Are the OS updates done?
Basically, is the device safe to let on?
Yeah, is it healthy?
And this whole idea, this endpoint compliance, it's so critical now. You can't just trust a device because you trust the user.
Right, because the device itself could be the problem.
Exactly. Could be carrying malware, have vulnerabilities. On guard is like that bouncer at the door checking the device's ID and its health before letting it in.
Uh-huh.
Stops threats before they even get a foothold on the network through a compromised endpoint. It's about that basic security hygiene check right at the connection point.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Check the device first. Now, related to that initial connection, what about securing the actual login, the user credentials?
Ah, yeah. Secure authentication.
So question 2 was about that. Which protocol encrypts the username and password in an 802.1x setup? Choices were like EAP, TLS, PEEP, PAP, radius.
And the answer highlighted is PEEP, protected EAP.
PEEP, okay. And the explanation says it encrypts the credentials during that 802.1x process so they're not exposed.
Right. So 802.1x, that's the main standard for controlling network access at the port level, wired or wireless. When you connect, it challenges you.
Like when you join a corporate Wi-Fi and have to log in.
Exactly that process. And PEEP is a common way within that process to protect your login details.
Why is that encryption step so vital?
Well, imagine just sending your username and password across the network unencrypted.
Yeah, anyone could potentially grab them.
Precisely. PEEP creates a secure encrypted tunnel first, and then sends your credentials through that tunnel. It's fundamental. You have to protect those identities during login.
Got it. Secure the device, secure the login. But networks aren't just employees, right? What about guests, visitors?
Ah, the guest access challenge. Always fun.
So question 3 tackled that. Which ClearPass feature lets visitors, create their own temporary accounts through a web portal? Options: Insight, Policy Manager, Guest Manager, Enforcement Profiler.
That would be guest manager.
Guest Manager it is. The source says it enables self-registration for temporary access, making things easier.
And this is huge, right? Guest access management. Think about contractors, clients, interviewees. They all need access.
But you don't want them having the same access as employees, and you definitely don't want IT spending all day creating temporary accounts.
Exactly. Guest manager automates that. It provides a simple web portal, often branded, where visitors can sign themselves up for temporary, usually restricted, access.
So it's easier for the guest, but still controlled by IT.
Totally. IT sets the policies. How long the access lasts, what network segments they can reach, maybe bandwidth limits. It balances convenience with security and control. It solves a really common headache.
Okay, handles the visitors. Now back to devices. How does ClearPass know what kind of device is trying to connect? Not just if it's healthy, but what it actually is.
Good question. That leads into profiling.
Right. Question 4 asked, which module uses fingerprinting to classify endpoint devices? Access Tracker, Authentication Source, Device Insight, or Cluster Manager?
And the answer is Device Insight.
Device Insight. The source says it uses fingerprinting to identify and classify devices based on their attributes and behavior.
Yeah, device profiling and fingerprinting. Knowing the user is one thing. Knowing what they're using is another layer. Is it a Windows laptop, an iPhone, a printer, An IoT camera,
You want different rules for different types of devices.
absolutely. A corporate laptop might get full access. A personal phone, maybe just internet. That IoT camera, maybe can only talk to a specific server. Device Insight gathers clues.
Clues, like what?
Things like MSC address vendor codes, DHCP requests, web browser identifiers, network scan results. It pieces together a profile.
So it figures out, this looks like an Android tablet. Or this behaves like a VoIP phone.
Exactly. It gives you that crucial visibility into what is on your network, which lets you write much smarter, more granular security policies.
That visibility sounds key.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need visibility right now, like if someone can't connect.
Yes, real-time troubleshooting.
Question 5 hit on that.
Yeah.
Which tool gives real-time authentication diagnostics? Choices: Access Tracker, Event Viewer, Audit Log, Insight.
That's the access tracker.
Access Tracker. Source says it provides real-time diagnostics for auth events, helps admins monitor and troubleshoot immediately.
Yeah, real-time authentication monitoring. This is your go-to when someone calls saying, I can't get on the Wi-Fi,
Whoa.
or you suspect something odd is happening now.
So it shows you, like, step by step what happened during that connection attempt.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
You see the requests come in, which policies fired, which ones didn't, why maybe it failed, which identity store it checked, and the final result, allow or deny, and why.
Wow. So it really helps pinpoint the problem quickly.
Massively. Cuts troubleshooting time way down. It's that live window into the decision process.
Okay, invaluable for support. So we've checked the device, secured the login, handled guests, identified the device type, watched connections live. Now, ClearPass makes a decision. What happens next? How does that decision actually affect network access?
The enforcement piece.
Question 6. What defines the action taken after policy evaluation? Role mapping, posture token, enforcement profile, or guest operator?
It's like enforcement profile.
Enforcement profile, okay. The explanation says it defines the action like assigning a VLAN, applying a role, setting restrictions.
This is enforcement actions and policy implementation. All the checks and decisions are great, but you need to do something based on them. The enforcement profile translates the yes, no, maybe decision into concrete instructions for the network gear.
So if the policy says this user is trusted and should be on the engineering network, the enforcement profile is what actually tells the switch or controller to put them in the engineering VLAN.
Exactly. Or apply a specific firewall rule or grant access to certain application servers. It's the make it so component. It connects the logical policy to the physical or virtual network controls.
Gotcha. That's the critical link. Now, we talked about verifying user credentials. Where does ClearPass usually check those against, like the main company user list?
Right. You usually don't want a whole separate user database just for network access.
So question 7 asked, which component stores config to validate users against external directories like LDAP or Active Directory, local user repository, authentication source, authorization source, device cache?
That's the authentication source.
Authentication source, makes sense. The source explains it holds the configuration for talking to those external systems.
Yeah, external authentication integration. Most places have Active Directory, maybe another LDAP source, maybe even cloud directories now. ClearPass needs to talk to them.
So it leverages the existing identity system instead of reinventing the wheel.
Precisely. The authentication source config tells ClearPass how to query AD or LDAP server address, credentials, search filters, etc. It's fundamental for centralizing user management and keeping things consistent. Much less admin effort.
Way more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so ClearPass can check against AD. How does it use that info plus maybe the device info to decide permissions? We touched on roles.
Right, moving beyond just allow, deny to different levels of access.
Question 8. What's the function of a role mapping policy? Is it mapping users to roles based on attributes, assigning VLANs, restricting guests, or logging auths?
It's the first one, map users to roles based on attributes.
Map users to roles based on attributes.
Yeah.
The explanation says these policies assign roles based on attributes, controlling access levels.
And this is role mapping and attribute-based access control, or AB rowing. It's really powerful. Instead of static rules for individuals, you assign roles dynamically.
How does that work?
Dynamically. Well, the role isn't just assigned manually. It's determined based on attributes ClearPass knows. Like from AD, it knows your department is sales. From Device Insight, it knows you're using a corporate laptop. From OnGuard, it knows the laptop is compliant. A role mapping policy might say, if department is sales, any device is time, corporate laptop and posture is compliant, then assign the trusted sales role.
Okay. So the role depends on Multiple factors combined.
Exactly. And that role is then used in your main policies and linked to an enforcement profile. It's flexible. If you move departments, your role changes automatically. If your device becomes non-compliant, your role might change to quarantine. It's access based on context, not just identity.
That sounds much more sophisticated and adaptable. Okay, we saw Access Tracker for real time. What about looking back, analyzing trends?
For historical data, yeah.
Question 9. Which component generates historical reports and trend visualizations? Policy Manager, Guest Manager, Access Tracker, or Insight?
That would be Insight.
Insight. The source confirms it's for historical reports and trends on off events and device activity over time.
Right. Reporting and analytics. Access Tracker is the microscope for now. Insight is the telescope for looking back over weeks, months, years.
What kinds of things would you use that for?
Lots. Security audits, who accessed what, when, capacity planning, how many devices are connecting, are we seeing growth, troubleshooting chronic issues or failures clustered in one area, identifying anomalies, why was there a spike in guest logins last Tuesday?
So it provides that longer-term perspective.
Exactly. It aggregates all that data from Access Tracker and other sources and lets you visualize it, report on it, and understand the bigger picture of network access behavior and security posture.
Insight sounds like the memory and the brain for analysis. Okay, last one. All these pieces, Policy Manager, Guest, Insight they need to run reliably, right? Especially for big companies.
Absolutely critical. Network access control can't just go down.
So, question 10 asks, why is ClearPass clustering used in enterprise environments? Endpoint fingerprinting, WebAuth, centralized config and high availability, or EAP-TLS validation?
It's for centralized configuration and high availability.
Centralized config and HA. Source agrees, saying clustering helps manage multiple ClearPass nodes centrally and ensure the system stays up even if one fails.
Yeah, high availability and scalability. This is fundamental architecture for any critical service. If your NAC system fails, nobody can connect. Work stops.
So clustering links multiple ClearPass servers together.
They work as a team. If one server has a hardware failure or needs maintenance, the others in the cluster pick up the load automatically. Users don't notice a thing.
So redundancy.
Redundancy, yes, and also load balancing for performance in really large environments with tons of connections. Plus, you manage the configuration for the whole cluster in one place, which is a huge administrative win. It makes the whole system robust, reliable, and scalable.
Based purely on everything we just covered from the source material.
Yeah.
Considering all these different components and checks, device health, user identity, device type, roles, enforcement, availability, just to decide if one device should be allowed on the network and what it can do. What does this level of complexity tell you about the sheer challenge network admins are up against today, just trying to secure access?
It's definitely not simple anymore, that's for sure.